my birthday signals another milestone in my life. I'm hopeful that if I stay true to myself and follow my instincts, my legacy will be looked on kindly for generations to come.
I don't think there's any impact on quality because I think that's very, well benchmarked. But I think you're right. There could be a drug shortage in the short term, which I think the US must basically be aware of, because I think if there is a situation where tariffs are not favorable for Indian generic makers, then obviously I think there will be an opportunity to relook at generics and relook at the tariffs.
Kiran, given the tariffs environment right now, might you consider shifting some of your manufacturing?
We already have, U.S. manufacturing in our generics business. We've, bought a facility in the U.S. in New Jersey a few years ago. We recently announced the acquisition of a biologics facility in Baltimore by Syngene. So we are fairly well represented. And in addition to that, we have just announced a very interesting manufacturing partnership with Civica. So we are looking at the US more from a point of being closer to patients.
We know that you've said before that you're pretty bullish when it comes to the US market. Talk to us about how much growth you're likely to see in the next 12, 24 months.
Well, from all our businesses, I think we're quite, optimistic about our growth prospects because, as you know, biosimilars is the biggest part of our group business. And we've seen a very strong adoption of biosimilars in the US market. We've also seen a great, improvement in market share for our products. And, there's been a recent windfall in insulin's demand, so which we see as a big opportunity of growth for biosimilar insulins and our company particularly, because we have the kind of global scale that is required to address that opportunity. When it comes to GLPs, as you know, Biocon has
As my birthday signals another milestone in my life, I'm hopeful that if I stay true to myself and follow my instincts, my legacy will be looked on kindly for generations to come.
The important semaglutides like semaglutide and Mounjaro. But of course, the opportunity for semaglutide in emerging markets opens up much sooner. And that's where our attention is focused. Having said that, I also want to mention that we will be uniquely placed as a company to have both GLP-1s and insulins in our portfolio. So that's what we are really positioning ourselves in terms of a strategic opportunity.
And in terms of the insulin space, Kiran, I'm just wondering what your strategy is looking like, given that Novo Nordisk is kind of like pulling out of that particular space.
So I think that's what I referenced to when I said we are seeing a windfall in insulin demand. And since we are one of the largest producers of insulins after Lilly and Novo, we look at that as a very positive, opportunity for us. And I can tell you that we expect a huge uptick in our growth in the in the coming fiscal and beyond, given that we don't see too much competition in that space. So we've just recently doubled our capacity in our insulin facility in Malaysia. We've also increased our manufacturing footprint through partnerships in many parts of the world, as we did see this insulin demand rising.
Kiran, thank you so much for being with us. Kieran, thank you so much for that. Kieran Mazumdar-Shaw, Executive Chairperson at Biocon and Biocon Biologics. Still to come on the show, what next for India and Pakistan as a ceasefire holds after days of military clashes? India's High Commissioner to Singapore joins us exclusively with his insights next. Keep it here with us. This is Bloomberg.
As I reach a milestone in my life, I'm humbled by my good fortune, yet well aware that I still have much to learn. And if I stay true to myself and follow my instincts, my legacy will be looked on kindly by my friends, my family, and hopefully generations to come.
In 2000, post-Napster, generally everybody wrote off the recorded music industry, including the investment community. And I didn't mind that chapter because then I got left alone. And actually, I think out of that period, we started to create better art because the pressure wasn't on from the technology to be the most powerful chapter. And then iTunes came in, and iTunes, to Apple's credit, did have a boutique taste mentality about the store, which meant that I think they understood. I can tell you from that period that the artists that came through were of a very high quality because it was encouraged to be boutique. Now, ironically, this chapter has made us more money times 5 than the iTunes chapter and the post-Napster chapter. But an algorithm tells you what you want, not what you might like. And there's a difference between what you want, but with streaming, the downside is you have incredible penetration, and we have hundreds of millions of people around the world, and so that has been very lucrative as a business.
Bringing you up-to-the-minute financial news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Michael McKee at the Federal Reserve, and this is Bloomberg.
The top names at the Fed are on Bloomberg.
I'm not going to overreact to any increase in inflation that I think is attributable to the tariffs. But if I see a significant drop in the labor market, then I'd be ready to go. I wouldn't be sitting here waiting to determine whether the inflation is transitory or not. It's time to worry about the real side of the economy. I would expect more rate cuts and sooner once I start seeing some serious deterioration in the labor market.
Nobody covers the Fed like Bloomberg.
Welcome back to Insight. A truce between India and Pakistan appeared to be holding after some initial reports of violations. President Trump announced a ceasefire on Saturday, and that's said to have angered some key officials in New Delhi. For the latest, we're joined by Bloomberg's Ruchi Bhatia from New Delhi. Ruchi, talk to us. Bloomberg reporting that India was not exactly pleased President Trump's announcement of the ceasefire. Why is that? Put that in context for us.
Well, absolutely right, Haslinda. India's discomfort is par for the course because it was Donald Trump who announced the ceasefire way before even Prime Minister Modi or the Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif could announce it. Having said that, India has long maintained that Kashmir is a bilateral issue and it can be handled between the both the countries. But this time we saw an intervention coming in from US, UK, Saudi, the group of 7 foreign ministers who had been asking India and Pakistan to have a dialogue. Having said that, the fact that we did see a lot of intervention coming in from the US officials has been a cause of discomfort from the Indian side. Having said that, I mean, while Pakistan has clearly acknowledged the US's role in it, India has steered clear. Having said that, it is being seen as a loss of position from the Indian side.